you get a lot of boomer managers who they might be on LinkedIn and they might see just this post. They don't see the subsequent discussion that says, oh, no, this is work that was already done and that we had fleshed out. And then I gave a 3-paragraph explanation of what I wanted and I got a toy out of it. No, what they see is this product. I buy Claude Code, I take one developer and I get a team of Google engineers. And that's absolute bullshit. And that's untrue. And it's warping the labor market. Are you tired of the endless hype around AI? Are you tired of being told you're being left behind at all times by X, Twitter, influencers, etc.? Well, you're not the only one. Over the holiday break, there was this post on Twitter that received a lot of attention. Dario Amodei was so right about AI taking over coding. This is from a principal engineer at Google. Google Code matched 1 year of team output in 1 hour. 1 year in 1 hour. AI has already replaced a lot of the grind that used to be a regular part of software engineering, repeated debug cycles, pattern matching across systems, and learning the shape of messy real-world code. Okay, great. This guy is Rohan Paul. I'd never heard of him. I looked at his profile. He's an investment banker, and this is his profile. Compiling in real time the race towards AGI, the largest show on X for AI. Yeah, so we don't have to worry about anything this guy said. The guy posts 25, 30 times a day, which means he's not reading anything and he's understanding even less. So the original post, I'm not joking, and this isn't funny. We've been trying to build distributed agent orchestrators at Google since last year. There are various options. Not everyone is aligned. I gave Claude Code a description of the problem. It generated what we built last year in an hour. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's take a look at more detail that John Adogan provides. It's not perfect, I'm iterating on it, but this is where we are right now. If you're skeptical of coding agents, try it on a domain you're already an expert of. Build something complex from scratch where you can be the judge of your artifacts. All right, so far, so good, perfectly reasonable. If we break down the original tweet though, it's claiming a lot. It's claiming a crazy amount. So let's break down the claims. So this is a person, she is a principal engineer. She will tell you that over and over again at Google on a team full of Google engineers, some of the highest paid, most technically competent individuals in the industry. They spent an entire year. Not everyone was aligned. They couldn't get to where they wanted to be. She gave Claude Code a description of the problem and it generated what we built last year in an hour. Okay, so what is that claiming? That's claiming a large team of very competent people looked at a problem for an entire year. And in the course of an hour, this agent managed to come up with the same solution. But as we look further, how detailed was the prompt? Closer to brief ad hoc description or full-blown PRD? It wasn't a very detailed prompt and it contained no real details given that I cannot share anything proprietary. I was building a toy version on top of the existing ideas to evaluate Claude Code. It was a 3-paragraph description. This is an entirely different thing than what she said. She gave it ideas they'd already vetted. They'd spent millions of tokens, billions of tokens, however you want to translate human interaction with this concept in ideation, and she gave it some guidance. And then she created a toy version of this. Now, you tell me, do you think this gets 8.3 million views if it was, I created a toy problem based off of work we'd already done? No, absolutely not. This is crazy clickbait. And she got a lot of pushback on it. I think, one, let's look. I don't want to navigate too much through Twitter's overall presentation just because I think it's dog shit, but we'll do a little bit. Simplicity and optimism. I hate the word optimism. I feel like every engineer should be a skeptic. That's a bad sign to start. But people are only anti-tech when they are burned out from trying new tech. It's understandable. All right, so you can see she's getting a lot of pushback on this. And if we click through, we can see, hi, Jana, principal engineer at Google. Actually, many of us are against the whole theft and exploitation and destroying the internet and concept of truth and reality thing, not burnout. She's getting a ton of pushback. And she has these very passive-aggressive responses that I don't think are fair or adequate responses to what was kind of a lazy presentation of an idea to get attention. Although in her defense, she did pretty readily come out with the exact details of what was going on, which is something I would expect from an engineer, not from somebody who's just marketing fluff. Here's another one that I found wildly offensive and a straw man. The developer community has always been divided into a few camps. People who are open to new modern tools, okay, clearly the good people. People who are building tools with new modern tools, oh wow, an even higher level to strive for, and people who think you should lose your job for using any modern tools. This is very clearly lumping anyone who criticizes her in this third category, which is crazy. Okay, finally, coding agents are the most divisive topic. There are people who genuinely want to learn. There are skeptics, and there are people who are so dogmatic that they want to remove all sorts of communication on this subject. 2026 will be an interesting year. No, people don't want to remove all communication. What people don't want is people don't want these kind of fluff pieces like this making it into the general consciousness and making people think that software engineering is trivially easy at this point in time. Because what we're seeing a lot of is, I recently saw Boris Cherny, who was the creator of Claude Code, and he showed his setup for using Claude Code. And he kind of details what he does, and we're going to go through this on another video, almost certainly, but he runs 5 Claudes in parallel in my terminal. A number of the tabs 1 to 5, etc. He has system notifications. I also run 5 to 10 Claudes on claude.ai/code, so in the browser, on their server, in parallel with my local Claudes. As I code in the terminal, I will often hand off local sessions to web using ampersand and manually kick off sessions in Chrome. This is insanity. This is absolute insanity. I really agree with the top comment over here on Hacker News. This is interesting to hear, but I don't understand how this workflow actually works. I don't need 10 parallel agents making 50 to 100 PRs a week. I need one agent that successfully solves the most important problem. I don't understand how you can generate requirements quickly enough to have 10 parallel agents. And keep in mind, these are very powerful agents that are supposed to be like you have a development team. They're better. They're better than developers. They're moving faster. They're generating quicker. They're checking their outputs. They're iterating on themselves. How can you keep those meaningfully churning and have meaningful supervision over 10 things at once? This is like someone claiming unlimited productivity. Yes, I absolutely agree. And my initial response upon reading this, yes, is the same. Wow, I think I'd rather just write the code. Yes, I would rather understand what the hell is going on versus having this flurry, this swarm of activity all around. That said, I am cognizant that I'm getting older. I understand that maybe I'm a dinosaur. Maybe I need to adapt this new workflow. And so what I really want to see is concrete results. And so let's take a look. I like the approach that Mike Judge over here, a Substack commentator, took. So he wants to know, where's all the shovelware? Where, if coding is suddenly so easy, if it's so easy to make a duplicate of any application, to spin up your own SaaS, where is it all? Why don't we see it right now? And so he goes in a very principled way through, and he walks through assessing whether we are in fact seeing an explosion of AI. All right, so starting off, he's been doing software for a long time, early adopter, and then he read the Meter study. I've covered this before. I'll put a link. Essentially what they found was professional developers thought that AI was making them 20% faster, but it was actually making them 19% slower. This shocked him and it was concerning. So he did what all good engineers and scientists should do, which is he decided that he would run an experiment to see, is this true? Is this false in my own case? So what he did was he took a number of different tasks and he estimated how long it would take to code. And then he flipped a coin and said, if it's heads, then I'll use AI. If it's tails, I'll just do it manually. And then he took a ratio of how long it took relative to his estimate. So that's a little bit hard to read. We'll walk through a few. So blue is no AI, red is AI. So over the course of a month and a half, he went through a number of tasks. He estimated So the estimate, if he was 100% correct, dead on, didn't take longer or shorter, he would have a ratio of 1. So in this case, he actually went 50% faster than his estimate, 50% slower in the next one. He used AI and he was massively faster on this task. You can see it only took him about a quarter of the time expected. Okay, you get the idea. So after doing that, what he found was that it appears AI overall slowed him down by about 21%. And just to make it clear, he's not some AI doomer guy. He says, I wish the AI coding dream was true because there's so many things he'd like to create. I think one thing that's really important is we need to distinguish. Clearly, AI is a huge help in some tasks, but what we're seeing is it doesn't seem to scale to the entire task of software engineering. So while it can very quickly write, say, a regex, which I would struggle with otherwise and would have to go to something like regex calculator or some other tool, and I would have to put in some examples. So, like go here, build, insert some text. I want to find cat. There we go. You might build up a regex here via this. Instead, AI speeds it up immeasurably. Okay. But there are other tasks where it slows you down substantially. Okay. So his argument, if so many developers are so extraordinarily productive using these tools, where is the flood of shovelware? Shovelware is a term for just kind of bargain bin clones. I think it came originally from the Wii when people were shipping like Cooking Mama 3 and other just garbage titles because everybody was buying everything that came out on the Wii. And so he looks at different storefronts in order to assess this. So for example, here we have the iOS app releases per month going back to 2019. And we are cut off a little bit. One thing that's important to note is Mike Judge, he's looking as of September, excuse me. So he hasn't seen the beauty that is Opus 4.5, which everybody is in love with right now. And undoubtedly, AI models have improved, right? Not denying that. I am making fun of it a little bit because everybody's so over the top with their love of Opus, but it hasn't been a sea change since then. We see things are flat. How about on the Android App Store? Flat to down, which actually this kind of makes a lot of sense to me. I've traditionally heard that the Android Play Store is really bad in terms of monetization versus Apple's ecosystem. So no surprise there. He also looks at DNS registration. So you would expect this to really tick up if all of a sudden there are all these new businesses that are being brought up, if people are spinning up my super Excel clone, my super new SaaS, and just a million things because we have these incredibly productive 10x, 100x developers. And you see a slight uptick, but not substantial. He also looks at Steam, and you can see the trend line seems pretty flat overall. And if you were to go to SteamDB, which I did, I won't here though, again, you're not going to see any major trend since the release of ChatGPT back in 2022. And similarly, GitHub. So GitHub repos, you might expect to see a huge tick up in the total number because more code is being generated, and you don't see it. So why does this matter? It matters because the impact on human life is huge. It's absolutely massive. Right now, you get a lot of boomer managers who they might be on LinkedIn and they might see just this post. They don't see the subsequent discussion that says, oh, no, this is work that was already done and that we had fleshed out. And then I gave a 3-paragraph explanation of what I wanted and I got a toy out of it. No, what they see is, oh, this product, I buy Claude Code, I take one developer and I get a team of Google engineers. And that's absolute bullshit. And that's untrue. And it's warping the labor market. And so it's very important that we keep an eye on these metrics and that we kind of monitor where things are going. Because I do believe there's tremendous value in the tools that are coming out. I use the tools all the time. But the promise versus the reality is very different. All right. So that was today's news and commentary. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you later. No, what they see is, oh, this product, I buy Claude Code, I take one developer, and I get a team of Google engineers. And that's absolute bullshit. And that's untrue, and it's warping the labor market.